Good morning, everyone. Suburban Sentinel here, coming to you once again from deep inside the Arabian Peninsula. And I'm a little homesick this morning. It's funny the things you miss. Today I was thinking about how I really miss rain, particularly the sound of rain on the roof. I also miss mud, just ordinary mud, dirt mixed with water. God willing, the minute I get back on American soil, I'm going to take steps to stand out in the rain and stomp my feet in the mud. Anyway, on to more important things. Debtors Prison. For those of you who have never heard of this, this is exactly what it sounds like. In the old days, in the United States, and in the not so old days throughout the rest of the world, you could go to jail for not paying a debt. And when I say that the debtor's prison is a thing of the past in the United States, that is a relative rather than an absolute concept. In theory, debtors' prisons were eliminated throughout the United States in the, I believe it was the mid-1800s, somewhere around 1830. At least that's what they taught us in law school. The reality is that debtors' prison is alive and well in the United States. Now, this is notwithstanding the fact that by statute and by decision of the Supreme Court that goes back many, many years, the courts absolutely forbade governments, that is the federal, state, and local governments, from imprisoning people for failure to pay a debt. Well, you may ask, how could this be? We have the statutes, we have the case law that says this is illegal, and it in fact should be. The problem is in that several jurisdictions the law is being ignored. Moreover, in other jurisdictions, they have found an end run around the prohibition against debtors' prisons. This end run is usually comprised of a combination of costs, fees, and fines. Now, courts are allowed to charge the litigants fees and costs. In some jurisdictions, the court is authorized to charge someone costs even if they win their case. So suppose, for example, you go to court on a minor traffic or very minor criminal charge and are found not guilty. The court oftentimes will assess you costs. And I don't believe that's fair, but that is the reality in a minority of jurisdictions. Also, let's say you cannot pay the fees, fines, or costs. Well, the theory is that they can still imprison you, and it's not that they're imprisoning you for non-payment of the underlying debt. They are punishing you for not paying the fees and costs due the court. Now, in many states, it is illegal to imprison someone for non-payment of court fees and fines without a hearing. But oftentimes this rule is ignored. Also, in just about every jurisdiction, a court can fine someone for willfully disobeying an order of the court. And that, of course, makes sense. However, in some American jurisdictions, it is perfectly legal for a court to hold someone in contempt for failure to show up at a civil hearing. Now, I can understand that for a divorce hearing or something of that nature, but failure to appear can usually be disposed of by defaulting the litigant. But in a minority of jurisdictions, the courts will fine someone just for not showing up. And I don't think that's fair, but more importantly, what will happen is a debt collector will go after someone and they will use an incorrect address or an old address, and you will never get proper notice. And then you are off to the races, where a court has assessed a penalty against you for not showing up at a hearing you had no notice you were required to attend. As state and local budgets get tighter, many judiciaries are relying on fines, fees, and costs for an ever-increasing percentage of their operating budget. And at the same time, due to scarce resources, they are paying less attention to the rights of the individuals that come to court. Perhaps most egregiously, some jurisdictions have assigned the role of assessing and collecting fines, fees, and costs to private enterprise. Some jurisdictions have hired these big companies, and their job is to not only sometimes assess, but collect fines, fees, and costs, and they have the power of the judiciary behind them. With one phone call or a letter, they can have an arrest warrant issued for non-payment. And I don't think that is fair, because these companies have a direct incentive to keep an individual debtor or supposed debtor on the hook and get as much money out of them as they can. Meanwhile, there is a dearth of supervision over these companies. In many cases, it's like the Wild West. These companies are doing whatever they feel like to the detriment of the people who can least afford to be tied up with the judiciary. I could spend all day talking about the abuses of these supposedly non-existent debtors' prisons in America, but I will spare you the agony of my voice. Public Broadcasting and the American Civil Liberties Union have done some really good videos on the subject, and I will leave links to those in the description box below. In the next video, I'll take a little time and discuss practical ways of avoiding getting jammed up with some type of debt collection or debtor's prison type situation. So, thanks for watching. This is the Suburban Sentinel. Please thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see. Questions, enlightening comments, and differing opinions are always welcome. Be safe, everybody.